I tend to have a very loud voice, so feel free to reduce the microphone because I'm really working hard to keep my voice down so I don't blow the microphone up. Okay, so hold on one second. Is this the beginning of my presentation? Yes, it is. And is it up there? Wonderful. And it's working. It is. All right. So yes, I do have a history with Take a Break. I love this group. This was a saver for me, I will say. I have 4 boys, and back in probably about 2000, I believe it was Tracy Hagerman, if I'm not mistaken, who invited me to this. And it was my weekly break. It really was. And some of you probably babysat my children, and it was very, very nice. My youngest did enjoy coming, and so in 2006, I stopped coming. But I was reminding Val that I had a bad car accident in early 2006, and I remember it was Val brought me this beautiful meal, and it was just wonderful. I felt very supported in this group, so it was really, really nice. So thank you for all that you do, and the amazing fact that you're still 18 years after I left, still here and thriving. What a fabulous ministry. So thank you very much for having me here. So I am here to talk to you for the next 45 minutes or so about the Council on Aging and all things aging. If anyone is not aging, you are welcome to come up and I will sit and listen to you. However, I don't think that's the case, so onward ho. So the Council on Aging of Ottawa has been around. Am I too loud, by the way? I sound too loud to me. Am I okay? I'm fine? Okay. Council on Aging of Ottawa has been around for 50 years next year. Our 50th anniversary is next April. So we've been around for many, many years doing a lot of great things. So I'm going to talk to you about what it is that we do. So our mission is to advance the well-being of Ottawa's older adults. And we are a bilingual council, so everything we do in both languages, which is very nice, and we are very inclusive. We try to be, so certainly, you don't always attract people from all different walks and looks and all those things, but certainly that is an important aspect of what we do. So there's 4 main things that we do. One is we bring people together, we convene people. So we'll say, there's this issue that needs to be addressed, and what community partners could help us address this? So one good example I'll give you that some of you may be very interested to hear about. We convened a few years ago, back in 2018. A gentleman walked into my office. Okay, right here is where I should stand, apparently. That's fine. I can stand anywhere you like. Anyway, so back in 2018, this gentleman walked into my office. His name was Rick Strong, and I had been for a long time wanting to start something for men. But I didn't have anyone to do it with me. And Rick walked into my office, and he said, he told me he had a background, advocating for men's issues and whatever. And I said, "You're my man." So we started. Make a long story short, we pulled together a committee. We held a men's breakfast on International Men's Day. Do you know when Men's Day is? Anyone? There is a Men's Day. Do you all know when Women's Day is? March 8. Most women know when Women's Day is. There's tons of events for Women's Day. There's nothing for Men's Day. It is on November 19. So you can wish your man a happy Men's Day on November 19, which is also, by the way, International Toilet Day. However, for whatever that's worth. Anyway, that being said, you can tell him that too. Anyway, that being said, we held our first men's breakfast that year in, I guess it was 2019. We held the men's breakfast with our committee. And from that, we formed the very first Ottawa Centre Men's Shed. If any of you have ever heard of a men's shed, it's a place for men to go. And this is why I thought this might interest you. If you have a man that you're trying to find somewhere for him to go, I got to get this guy busy. It is just a place for men to go to hang out. There are now, I do believe, 7 men's sheds. And my mic has died. I can talk really, really loud, so I'm good. So Ottawa men's sheds are a place for men to go to talk. And there's 7 in Ottawa right now. One of them is just very social. They have breakfast, they have speakers in. Another one is really big on doing stuff. They make theater they, do all kinds of technical things, they get busy with their hands, and then there's some that do woodworking and different things, but it's a place where men can go because men have a harder time connecting. So that's just one example of where we convened a bunch of people and said, here's an issue we need to address, and here's what we can do about it. So that gives you an example of bringing people together to address issues. I won't go on about every issue this long. We do advocate for things, so we certainly do say, right now, maybe seniors need, more free bus rides or whatever. And by the way, do any of you take the free bus on Wednesdays? Council on Aging, you're welcome. That's something that we did maybe 5 years ago. So that was when that came into being. And then we asked the mayor for more days, and he gave Sunday, which was great. So now we have 2 days so people can come to church. So we advocate for things. So that's just a couple of examples you might relate to. We do develop and deliver branded educational material, and I'll be talking more about that later. And we keep older adults informed. So we do have a newsletter that goes out. We have an events newsletter that goes out weekly. And, I'm supposed to be here, I forgot. We have an events newsletter that goes out weekly, and then a newsletter with all kinds of news that goes out monthly. And if you would like to sign up to receive that, I do have a sign-up sheet that I will pull out, and I have some other things there that you're welcome to take as well. So the two main things we do are to engage older adults in order to advocate, and we educate. So here's what we do in terms of engagement. We know that certainly the population of older adults is growing. I certainly have heard this stat a million times. We now have more older adults over the age of 65 than we have children under 15 across the country, never mind in this city. And so that's a huge issue. So back in 2011, 13% of our population was over the age of 65. But by 2031, which is quickly approaching, we're going to have more than 20%. So there's a lot of older adults out in this city. There's a lot of us. So that gives us a big voice. So what is an age-friendly community? So we're big on talking about age-friendly Ottawa, which I'll mention in a minute. But if you heard, I've got the definition here. I usually hide that part first. But, certainly, if you think about an age-friendly community, if something was to be age-friendly, it really makes sense that it would be inclusive and accessible, that it would be, something that everyone would be welcome. If you think about each of your own homes, how many of you could have someone into your home who was in a wheelchair? And if they got in, could they go to the bathroom? Things like that. So that's even just us and our own homes. And as we're maybe, some of you might be building a home or renovating a home, stop and think about, as I'm redoing these steps, is this something I should think about? So just things like that, even in our own minds to do that. But certainly we're working with the city on more things like having more benches for people to stop and rest on so that they can go for walks because they know they have somewhere to sit along the way. So, that's just, again, another example. So certainly anything that promotes active aging. There's 8 key areas to an age-friendly city. Certainly transportation, being able to get around. And some of you might have heard of the 15-minute city, where wherever you are, you should be able to get to anything within 15 minutes. And that's meant to be walking, by the way. So hopefully, that's not driving. You can get almost anywhere driving. But anyway, so transportation, housing, huge issues in housing, and I'll get to that. Social participation, just increasing opportunities. We know that social isolation is a huge issue, particularly amongst seniors. 13% of Canadians over the age of 55, not 65, indicate that they socialize once or less per year. You were all like, I haven't heard this one, so it must be year. Yeah, 13%, and this is very statistical. This is really widely studied. There's a lot of isolated seniors out there. They may be interacting, they go to the pharmacy and get their prescription, but that's not socializing. They might, be in contact with other human beings, but it doesn't mean they're socializing. And that's very different to feel valued and feel a sense of belonging and that kind of thing. Respect and social inclusion is another key area. Civic participation, employment, volunteering, that kind of thing. Communication and information. How do we get information out there? Even for us, we have members of our organization who are not, who don't have email, aren't online, that kind of thing. How do we get them stuff? The mailing costs, like nobody mails anything anymore. So, how do we bundle things in ways that are mailable? So that's, do we make phone calls? So finding ways to reach people if they aren't, necessarily on the edge of everything. So community support and health services, that's one of the biggest issues we come up against. Navigating the healthcare system, that's huge. And outdoor spaces and buildings, that's where you get into the park benches that I was mentioning and that kind of thing. This is a lovely picture of our former mayor, along with Mark Taylor. Yes, he was also deputy mayor, I believe, and a couple of our volunteers when the city was declared age-friendly back in 2011. So Ottawa is indeed an age-friendly city. However, it's not something that you are and you've arrived and everything about you is. It's just that you've committed to certain standards and things that you're going to do and that you're continuing to move forward. So Ottawa does have an older adult plan, and we work very closely. The Council on Aging is a very key organization to work with the city on that older adult plan, outlining exactly what they think, should be advanced in the next year or 2 or 5. They have usually about a 4-year plan for what they're going to do. So I think they're just about to finish up their next 3 or 4 year plan. This is their 4th one, I do believe. So we always collaborate with them on that. So recently, last year, the Council on Aging developed a government relations strategy. You could also call it the municipal engagement strategy, where we want to achieve certain things. So one thing, for example, that's on there is we want to, and there's probably 50 bullets under each one of these. So I'm just going to give a couple of examples, but one of the things there is wanting to have more social opportunities for seniors in like recreational opportunities. I don't know if any of you have seen where pools, like at Bob Macquarie, might be sitting empty for a couple of hours, and could we not have more aqua fitness? The aqua fitness classes, my dad would love to register for something like that. Those things fill up normally within an hour or 2 of when the registration opens. So if you are not the person right on the ball, with your grandson, clicking the button for you or something like that, you probably won't get in. And so we really need more of those things. That's just one example, but we have a whole strategy of, what we want to see the city do, what we're prepared to do, what we're prepared to encourage others in the community to do. And so it's a real collaborative effort. So when we say we advocate, it's a very small a advocate. We're not out with placards going, so-and-so sucks, get them out of here, that party's horrible. It's more, how can we work with you to make change happen? So we have a whole government relations strategy. You may or may not be aware that recently one of the things we advocated for about a year was to have a council liaison for older adults. So someone that older adults could go to on city council to say, hey, I have a concern about this. Someone who would be particularly concerned with that. So there's other counselors who are designated to other issues like diversity or disability or something like that. So maybe last fall, we achieved this. We went to City Council, made a big presentation, and we got 2 older adult advocates. So that's really great. We've worked with Teresa Kavanaugh a lot in the past as well. Alan Hubley is new to me. I know of him, but I hadn't worked with him previously. So really nice to have 2 people on City Council who are directly concerned with, amongst many other things, of course, older adults. So, our vision of an age-friendly Ottawa, we have many things that we are concerned with. So, the way that the Council on Aging functions is through a committee structure on our advocacy side. So, we have committees on these issues: housing, health, transportation, income security. We have had social inclusion, and currently we have a Francophone Affairs Committee. It's been very strong for many years. It is just on a 1-year hiatus at the moment. And so we are hoping to get that started. If you know anyone who would like to get in there and start working towards some things. One of the things we would really love to do, this is my first choice of what they should be advocating for, is a Francophone men's shed, because Francophone men need that too, and there are no Francophone men's sheds. So I think that would be a great issue for them to address. That being said, we have many issues that we advocate for, and I am about to tell you about what we're doing. So we do have a housing committee, and I will run through these things. So we have a housing guide. If any of you have ever thought, if I ever had to move, where would I move next? Have you ever wondered that? Okay. So our housing guide is a great place to start. And we are just about to republish it, like early 2025. But the current one is great. This will be our third publication of it coming out. We did 2019, 2021, and now 2025. And we always update it with updated information, but also new additional information. How many of you have ever heard of a NORC? It's a naturally occurring retirement community. And what that is, so as an example, that's one thing we're adding into our housing guide this time. This has become a recently very popular trend. So some of you may even live in a NORC and you just don't know it. So a NORC is I'll start with either a condo or apartment building that is highly populated with older adults. So people over the age of 65. Do you live in one? There you go. Okay, I see a couple people nodding. So you need to have more than 30% older adults in your building in order to qualify as a NORC. You don't have to apply to be one. It's a statistical thing. And we have actually created a map, an interactive map on our website of the NORCs in Ottawa. There are 170 of them. And the key thing about this is, often we have socially isolated people, women maybe living across the hall from each other, watching TV and eating tea and toast, who have never stopped to go, hey, I have a neighbor across the hall. I should, get to know them. And the fact that so many people live in these, communities, why are we not, engaging more in having formal ways of connecting and maybe even bringing in services? Have you ever seen, someone with someone's getting foot care in Orleans and then the person has to drive to Nepean and then they go back to the market and it's like, this does not make sense. Let's have someone in one place. And so that kind of thing. So we're kind of working towards that kind of thing. So anyway, the housing guide is great. What I will tell you about the housing guide, in the front of it, there's I believe it's a 4-page questionnaire that you can go through that asks you all these questions about where would I want to live next? Like, do I want to have a pet where I live? Do I want to have to shovel? Do I want to live near my family or maybe far from my family? Do I want to move to another city to be closer to my family? Or even the other end of this city? Will that be like moving to a foreign country? And truly it can be. If I live in Cumberland, which I do, and if one of my kids was in Nepean and I decided to go live there, I don't know anything about that. I don't normally go there. So suddenly it takes you out of your social context and that kind of stuff. So even thinking through that. So there's 4 pages of questions to help you think through where do you want to live next. It's just such a valuable tool. And then we also have some workshops on housing, which I will tell you about in a few minutes. This is our housing committee is actually quite large. It's about 20 people, but that was just one day. And I think the rest were online. All right, so we have had a series of community conversations recently about housing issues, asking people what are their concerns right now. So one of the big concerns is that rent is just skyrocketing, so there isn't enough rental units for people in that middle income bracket, which we're currently saying maybe might be $30,000 to $70,000 a year. There's lots of opportunities in the lower income bracket, although there's wait lists for a lot of things. But if people in the middle bracket can't afford the housing, because available is up here, then they start to go to this housing, and now you've got a bigger bottleneck. So, things like that. So we're talking to people about what are your needs and how do we solve these things and that kind of stuff. This is our interactive map. This is what you would see of the NORC mapping on our website, and you can actually go on there and click on each NORC and you can see what percentage of the building is older adults and that kind of stuff. And for some reason it's not, you have to go in the search bar and type NORC. We don't have it properly linked and that needs to be fixed. I discovered that the other day. All right, so health issues is another thing we're looking at. We've done a variety of things with health issues. We did a lot of stuff with long-term care. We had a huge public awareness campaign all ready to go. It was set to launch in April of 2020, and COVID hit. So then we had to do a whole new thing to preface it all, but all the issues that came out in COVID were all the things that we were looking to address. So it was like, oh man, now the whole world is dealing with this. Anyway, so we did a huge campaign on that. We've kind of dropped that off right now, and now we're working a lot more on home and community care, because that is a huge issue of how do we keep people in their homes, and how do we address those kinds of issues, even here in Ottawa. Transportation. We've done many things. One of the things we do is what's called our snow mole program. Have any of you ever read about the snow moles in the news? All right, good for you. There's Sheila. Have you even done some snow mole things? No? All right, so the snow mole program, does anyone want to tell us what it is, if you've read about it? Or should I? I will. Okay, that's fine. So the snow moles, what they've been doing for the past about 6 years, I'm going to say, they've been going out and walking in the winter, so we didn't do much of it this winter, but in past winters, we've had all kinds of seniors out, and we get about 300 reports in from seniors who are out walking in their communities, and they report on the conditions of the walkability. And what we've been doing is putting that into a report and submitting it to the city. So we have had some areas around where seniors frequent. We've been able to change the snow clearing grade. So there are 4 grades to how they clear snow. Things you didn't know. And so they certainly do that. And so we were able to have it cleared to, in these certain areas, it's now cleared to the pavement rather than just, clearing away the snow sort of generally. I don't remember what the 4 grades actually are, but I know down to the pavement is the best one. And so we've been able to have that changed. We've also been able to have some stoplights changed, the timing on them, when people can't get across fast enough, that kind of thing. So, and I know some of us have told us, some people have told us that they've phoned into the city to talk about something and like, oh, are you one of those snow moles? So the city staff certainly know who we are, and that's lots of fun. Anyway, so that's one area that we've been advocating a lot in. We're hoping to wrap that program up next winter because the city will be reestablishing their snow clearing standards, and then we can put that one to bed. CarFit, and I think the next one is probably 55 Alive. These are things about driving, basically driving safety. Certainly, as we get older, all kinds of things change in our bodies, right? Our reaction times, our vision, our hearing, all kinds of different things change, such that, maybe our driving isn't the same as it used to be. So there's a 55 Alive driver refresher, and we will be holding one. We're holding a whole thing on taking your driving test at 80 in April, just in a few weeks. And 55 Alive, I can't remember the dates for it, but I do have them. And we hold them usually 2-3 times a year. So you can go. So for example, did you know that as you age, your reaction time does slow? So you know how you leave 2 car spaces between you and the car in front of you? Over the age of 50, you're supposed to leave 3. Because your reaction time is slower, so it just gives you a little bit more. Someone did ask me, do you add on one for every decade? And I'm like, no, like 2 miles up. So we don't do that. But certainly, so 3 is, it just stays at 3, that as our reaction time's slow, it's just, wise driving. But all kinds of tips, and I know when I learned to drive, there was no roundabouts. I have no idea. So I just learned them. My kids told me I was doing them wrong when they took driver's ed, and, do we know how to navigate roundabouts? We just can't figure it out. But, are we doing them right? Who knows? So that kind of thing. The one that I was here previously, CarFit, this is a clinic you can go to. It takes about half an hour. And what they do is they adjust your car for you. So you would be best if your seat was up a little further. Maybe you need a cushion. You should be sitting forward. Your mirror should be like this, all that kind of stuff. Ways to help you get in and out. So it really customizes your car for you. Now, if you share your car with someone, that might not be as easy to keep. But certainly it's a great thing, and it's basically fitting your car to your particular needs. So that's another thing we hold quite regularly. Income security is another fantastic committee that we have. They do hold sessions on retiring on a low income because there are different rules. For example, RRSPs are generally not great for people who are on a low income and anticipate retiring onto a low income. Unless you make tons of money and then you retire to a low income, then RRSPs, for example, are great. You get all the taxes back at a high rate and you pay them out at a very low rate. But there's all kinds of rules around retiring on a low income. So if you know anyone who's going to be retiring on, maybe a OAS and tiny bit of CPP and maybe even the Guaranteed Income Supplement, this is a fantastic program. And we usually hold them through the libraries. So that's a great one. Francophone Affairs, we've done many, many things in the Francophone Affairs Committee over the years, although, as I said, we're currently on a bit of a hiatus. But over the years, they've done great things. They, if any of you know anyone who lives in Ottawa Community Housing, maybe you do yourself, there's a program in there called Aging in Place, and it's basically where they have a staff person in place that helps, the residents in the building, know where to go and who to call and helps them fill in forms or whatever like that. So we started that program back in the 90s. We also started a gerontology program, that good old word. We started the gerontology program in French at the University of Ottawa because what we found was there weren't enough French students taking French education on serving seniors, and therefore there weren't people out, delivering services in French. And so we started that program again early 2000s, and so now there are more graduates coming out and serving seniors in French, that kind of thing. So that's really great. One program that we have right now is called Engage at Every Age. It's a partnership project we have with Andrew Fleck Children's Services. And if you have your children at some point with Andrew Fleck Children's Services, they're the biggest child care provider in the city. However, and they've been around for like 100 years. Anyway, it's their project. We're helping them out with it. But what they're doing is an intergenerational daycares. And so they have seniors come in. I think anyone, 50 and up is welcome to participate, and I do have flyers about it as well. And they have people coming in, and the goal is that they would be like, oh, Marjorie's coming today, oh, wow. That they get to know Marjorie. They know it's not just, oh, we have some seniors coming to say hello. It's they really know who's coming today. And, oh, that means we're going to be planting flowers. Oh, yay, or she always does baking with us, or, he shows us these science experiments. It's in daycare, so it's ages 3 months to 4 years, but still these kids get really engaged. And apparently one of the kids saw they call them grandfriends, saw one of the grandfriends at a restaurant, and so the family invited them to come and sit and eat with them, and they had a great time. And so this is about people getting to know each other, really developing relationships intergenerationally. So it's a kind of a new model. We have a lot of what I call going to the zoo. A group of kids goes and sings for a group of seniors, and that's great. But how much more rich and special it is to develop those relationships. I think that's really great. So there's 3 daycares they're doing that in currently as a pilot. All right, now to our education. So our Smart Aging program is a bit of sort of my baby. This was something that I really advocated to get going and have done a lot of work on. The premise of the Smart Aging program, a few of you might know that for many, many years, even while I was at Take a Break, in fact, I earned my living for many years while I was mostly home with my kids, giving retirement planning seminars to the federal government. And I still do that. In fact, I have one this afternoon. And so I talk on lifestyle issues. What are you going to do when you retire, and how will your relationships change, and what will your identity be when you no longer identify as a teacher or whatever it is. And so I kept thinking, there's these key issues. If you go to any retirement seminar, you're going to hear about your pension plan, your legal issues, and transitioning psychologically, that kind of thing. There's probably 6 or 7 key issues you're going to hear about at every retirement seminar. And I thought there has to be those same issues for seniors. So, there's things you can do, go see your guidance counselor and take whatever thing when you're in high school, and to know what courses to take in university to get to your goal, or what to expect when you're expecting. There's books and courses on that. But there was no course, and I searched North America looking for a course. I found a few that were similar to what I wanted, but not really. And so we set out to establish this course. So the purpose of the course is sort of to say, let's plan ahead. A lot of things that happen to seniors happen in moments of crisis. It's suddenly Mary has fallen and broken her hip. She'll never be able to return home because the only bathroom is on the second floor. She can't navigate stairs anymore. Oh my goodness, what do we do? Her son lives in BC, and, whatever. Do we move her out to BC? Do we, put her in a retirement home? How do we deal with this? And Mary may not be in a state of feeling confident to make those decisions, so people aren't informed. So this whole program is about saying, what are the decisions that might come up in life, and are you prepared for them, whether they come in a month or in 10 years? Have you thought these things through? So, for example, I used to think ahead to what car I wanted next. So if anything were to happen, I would be like, yep, I wouldn't spend 3 weeks, without a car trying to figure out which one I wanted to buy. That was just a thing I did. And so certainly, so that's just an example. It didn't mean I was going out to buy a car that week. It just meant I was prepared. If one came up, I was like, yeah, I really like the new Prius, or whatever. So, and I'm getting a new car on Saturday. I'm getting an electric car on Saturday. That's going to be very new for us. Anyway, our old car died. That was the end of it. So anyway, the premise of this course is that significant decisions get made in moments of crisis, rather than being thought about, planned about, talked about with loved ones, so they know what your wishes are. So this course provides you with the information you need before you need it. That's really, really important, so that you can make informed decisions with your family and that kind of thing. So we want to equip people to make those decisions. So within each course, so there's a core program, which is 8 weeks long, and I'll tell you about it in a second, and then there's a bunch of standalone workshops that you can take individually. Is that okay? I thought that was a question. I was like, no, questions are later. That's right. So within each workshop, there is facilitated learning time. Each one, I would say each workshop is 2 hours. I can tell you that. And within it, about a third of the workshop is spent with someone talking to the participants. About a third of it is spent with participants thinking stuff through, maybe jotting down notes, working through a checklist on their own. And about a third of the workshop is then talking with the people at your table about what you've just written down. So to get that exchange. So there is facilitated learning time. There's also individual and group things. There's interaction. There's a lot of learning from one another. Like, here's what I'm going through, and these are my thoughts on this issue. And so, what do you think? And then you can get feedback. You can learn from one another and share a lot. It's really important, discussing those issues that are important to you, discussing them with peers. So that's really helpful. They're all 2 hours in length. They are all led by trained facilitators. There's usually 3 to 5 activities in each one. And then, as I said, there's group and individual work. In each one as well, at the end of the workshop, there you make commitments. So, for example, in the 8-week course, basically you're there for all 8 weeks with the same 30 people. You're probably sitting at the same table with the same 5 people. So on week 1, you say, based on what I've learned today, I'm committing to doing this. I'm going to have this conversation with my daughter. I know I should have had this long ago, and I'm committing. I'm going to come back next week and tell you I did it. And then next week you report in. We spend the first 10 or 15 minutes with people reporting in on what they did during the week. So there's a lot of accountability and building up of relationships. And one of the really surprising outcomes for us when we piloted this program was that even 6 months, a year, and we're finding even longer, some of those tables are still getting together for dinner, for coffee, once every couple of months or whatever. And we were like, what? That never occurred to us that would happen. And that was just so special to me to know that this had in fact increased people's social circles. And I've asked a couple of them, so do you talk about things from the Smart Aging program? And they said, It usually comes up every time we get together, but it's not the purpose of us getting together. It's not a continued accountability group. We just became friends through the process. And not everyone does, but we were really surprised at how many did. It can be offered at any location, so we could hold a smart aging program here, certainly, and you just pick your day and your time, and we'll provide everything that's needed. And we can offer it online, in person. We've done it over the phone only once, and it works. But we just happen to not have done it again. And we do it in English and French. So the whole thing is about empowering you to do it. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more. That's a lot of stuff. Okay, that's too much on the slide. All right, so here's the 8 sessions that are in the core program. The first session is called Understanding My Aging. It's really all about where am I at right now? How do I feel about getting older? What's great about this? What sucks about this? What do I still want to do? What do I regret not doing? What conversations do I need to have? What actions do I need to take? And then making commitments out of that. The second session is on, I would say, staying connected. It is called Staying Socially Connected, but we do emphasize as well that not everyone is a hugely social creature. Some people might be very connected to their pet, and that's where they spend a lot of their time, walking their dog or grooming their dog or doing whatever. And that's absolutely fine. Some people are very connected to nature or connected to their faith or what have you. And those are totally legitimate connections that this is where I'm really fed and where, I get my energy. And that's fine. So certainly there's an emphasis. Most of us like to connect socially, but there is an acknowledgement that there's a lot of other connections we can have. The third one is on having a healthy lifestyle. We do kind of at the beginning, we have a nice little game where we go through, what do you know about the usuals, like, exercise and eat well and, don't drink, don't smoke, blah, blah. All those things that we all know. But the main focus of that workshop is on what is concerning you right now about what's going on in your life with your health. So maybe it's everyone in my family has had diabetes. And, I don't have it yet, but I'm really concerned about getting it. And so that's my main focus. Or, I'm really concerned about falls and, that I just sometimes feel not so steady on my feet. So what's your concern and what are you doing about it? So again, it's very action-oriented. The fourth one is about preparing for a health crisis. And that is very much, have you had those conversations? We go through, scenarios and say, if Maisie had a heart attack or a stroke and she couldn't talk and her son had to make decisions for her, what would he do? Is that what you would want? Would you think he's a horrible son for making those choices? All that kind of thing. And so we talk through that. And okay, so we go through a few scenarios and then say, okay, what conversations do you need to have? And, what wishes would you have if, X, Y, or Z? And you can't pick out every scenario that's going to happen, but, are people generally aware of your wishes, and do you have all your affairs in order? That would be another key element there. Transportation options is understanding all the options that are out there. Many of us rely on driving. I can't imagine not driving. Although, hey, a lot of people don't. So that's fine, but we go through all the options to driving. So we talk about walking and cycling and taking an Uber and paratranspo and public, transportation, all these things. Because often what happens is someone loses their license and they're like, I don't know what to do. And so suddenly they're lost. But again, it's about transition. Have you ever downloaded the Uber app and just taken one for the heck of it? And, just see what it's like. And then it's a familiar thing. Get on a bus. Do it now while you're healthy. And then it's a familiar thing. And then it's not so scary if that time were ever to come that you did need to do that. So really helpful thing to understand transportation options. And we do also talk about driving cessation, the test at 80, that lovely test. And then, which isn't as scary as you might think. We actually, in this thing that we're doing, I think it's April 9, we walk you through what the entire test will entail and what changes are coming. There's a few changes they're making this year to the test. Anyway, so certainly all of that, but when to know also that it's time to stop driving. I hope I will know when it's time for me to stop driving and, I'm just not driving safely anymore. There are safe measures you can take, but it goes into all of that. Housing options, and I've told you a bit about that, just exploring the whole range and what would you want to do next. Financial concerns is actually common financial concerns. So whether you make $15,000 a year or $150,000 a year, doesn't matter. These are common financial concerns. We talk about questions like, will I have enough? So for one person, that might be, will I have enough to take my grandson to the movies this month? And another might be, will I have enough to spend my winter in Europe? It doesn't matter. It's, will I have enough for whatever it is you need? So, or want, or what your plans are. So things like that. Or do I have a plan for when people ask me for money? So that could be your neighbor who's constantly borrowing laundry money, or it could be your daughter who keeps implying she'd like her inheritance now. So, those kinds of things. So, you'd like your inheritance now, Brooke? Is that what you're saying? No. I just heard you talking. Okay. So certainly, it could be anything, but they're common financial concerns. Just how do they apply to you? And then finally, engaging in my aging is sort of a celebration of the whole thing, kind of recapping what you've done over the 7 weeks and what are your next steps. So really, really helpful. One thing we'd like to start is sort of a Smart Aging alumni group where people could, just come back when they have questions and want to talk through something. And we're looking at maybe doing that this year. We have 8 standalones. Connecting at a distance, we created this during COVID, but honestly, it can be a really good thing. If you break a hip and you're kind of housebound for a while, or maybe you're caregiving for your spouse and you just to get out, connecting at a distance could be, a distance, to your friend down the street. So anyway, when you can't get out or whatever it is, so applies to a lot of different things. Online banking and shopping doesn't require any explanation. Recipe for healthy eating, we talk a lot about how our bodies change, our nutritional needs change, that kind of thing, as well as what's the difference between all these places where you can order prepared meals and ones that you make and ones that come ready and all that stuff. So we have lists of all those and price points and that kind of thing. Emergency preparedness is one we have done a ton of. We developed the emergency preparedness workshop in collaboration with the Red Cross. And after about a year of helping us deliver it, because they have all their people, their volunteers delivering it for us, they came to us and they said, we have discovered that your workshop is more successful than our workshops. And so we want to continue with this. So they gave us a grant to expand it, and we just recently won an international award for this wonderful thing. I know, isn't that great? So basically, and the difference was they were presenting stuff and then leaving. We present stuff and then say, okay, and in the middle of all the presentation, all right, do a checklist of which ones of these do you have ready. Now, how are you going to go about getting your emergency kit? Now, let's do a list right now of who are your emergency contacts. Let's put this inside your medicine cabinet. So we have all the things there. We provide them with emergency contact cards, all that kind of stuff. So it's really hands-on, and they're acting on it already while they're there. So they have found that very effective. So that's been great. Exploring mental health is really, it's resiliency. We actually renamed that one, but it's all about resiliency and how to cope with things, especially in later life. Home modification and service supports. These are both about aging in place. How do you stay in your home? Do you want to modify your home? Get educated about what might this cost you, and what kinds of choices do you have? Services and supports is, again, what are the common supports that people are looking for? Are these things that would help you? Maybe you've never thought about that. And this last one, in and out of hospital, that's navigating in and out. What are the common things people go in for? Why do they get readmitted? How to know that you're discharged well so you won't be readmitted 3 days later, which is really common. So all these different things, and how to be ready to go to the hospital. So there's actually a list you can put on the inside of your medicine cabinet for that as well. So if your friend comes over and you're waiting for the ambulance, you can be like, yep, my nightgown's there, and there's a whole list of what you should take and that kind of thing, so you're ready. Really, really helpful. We recognize you can't teach people everything they need to know, but at least you can put them in a good spot where they have the information they need when they need it. One of the other surprising things, other than that people stayed in touch from this, was about a year after we started this program, we decided to get some people to do some testimonials and talk about it, and we did up some videos of it. And they all, when they came to give their testimonies, they all brought their binders, because we give a binder of material. And I said, you kept your binder? And they were like, yes, I refer to this binder. This is like my aging Bible. And I was like, really? That's amazing. So that also, just told us that people have, really held on to the information and find it great to have that. So we do have some coming up. Just a few last things of, if you want to know more about the Council on Aging, I do have our flyers over here. I also have a calendar. We put out an annual calendar. This is the second year we've and it has all kinds of dates, like when you get your OAS and CPP checks. Very important dates to know. So I got one of them wrong. However, so all that kind of thing, but they're really helpful, and the content, it's not a picture of a cat, on the calendar. It's information about things related to aging. So please help yourself. I've got a good 40 of them there, I think. So you can become a member. It's $40 to become a member. Membership basically is you saying, hey, you guys do great work, and I want to add my name to the list of people who thinks you do great work. In addition to supporting the cause, you also get discounted rates. That's a bit of a secondary thing, but you do get discounted rates. For example, the Smart Aging program is normally $99. As a member, you get it for $69. And we always, by the way, have free spots for anyone. We don't want anyone to miss out. If finances would be a barrier for someone to take the program, there's always a freebies. There's no questions asked. We're not looking at your T4 slips, nothing like that. Just that's absolutely fine. So you can become a member, absolutely, and support the cause. You can also go online to our website, which is quite new, and the events listing. I really like the events listing on the new one, and we're working on making some more changes to it as well. You can volunteer with the Council on Aging. Right now, you can volunteer on the committees. That's some people like to advocate. You can also volunteer for our events, pouring coffee and greeting speakers and that kind of thing, as you did today. So all of that. We also need people to go out and look for silent auction items. We have a big event coming up at the end of May, and so we're looking to have a silent auction. So there's all kinds of different opportunities people can have. What we need is a couple of guys to help us with our parking. That would be good. Girls too, but usually that would interest guys. So there are volunteer opportunities, and you can donate as well. This is our staff. Wonderful collection of people. And I think that's it. You can like us on Facebook, and we're also on Twitter. But we do nothing on Twitter. Don't look for us on Twitter, because we don't do anything there. We do go on Facebook, and this week, we will be hiring a communications person, so we will be doing a lot more on Facebook. That is it. All right.
Hello, everyone. If we can get you all to just quickly take your seat, we'll do our question and answer time. And thank you, Sarah. My name's Tara. I'm
Hi,
one
Tara.
of the Take a Break committee members and the facilitator here. And I think, having heard this for the first time, the thing that really struck me is that it's a social also for seniors to get them out and be social, which seemed to be huge and such an impact. Because I know my father would never leave the house. He'd only go out and ride a scooter, and he was home watching TV all day, all alone.
Yes.
And I actually have to say I was shocked that it was 1 year for communication out.
Yeah.
That totally shocked me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, let's get our reading glasses on. We have some really good questions.
Good.
So the first question we have is, do you have to be 50 to take the core programs?
No, you don't have to. It may not be as applicable to you. And I will say one of the things I would love to do is to create a new program called You and Your Aging Parent for younger people who want to know more. But absolutely, anyone can take it. If you're wanting to find out more for your parents, absolutely knock your socks off. Just if it's for you, it might just not be as applicable. That's the only thing.
Volunteers. Can we volunteer? Do you take volunteers, helpers? How do they get involved, and what is the time commitment for each volunteer?
Absolutely. So there are many volunteer opportunities. And as a volunteer, you can decide what your time commitment is because you're a volunteer. But certainly, if you want to be on a committee, certainly there are, we expect everyone to be engaged and involved. There's monthly meetings and work in between where you're going to be advocating for things. Whereas if you want to be involved more in, say, one of our fundraisers or going out and get silent auction prizes, you do that as you wish. And we also have opportunities at events to maybe pour the coffee or do the registration, that kind of thing. One thing we've just started next week, we are opening a new training, education, meeting room. And I'm looking for a few people who might like to be coordinators of that room. So just to show up in the morning, get the lights on, turn on the coffee, make sure the pens are out, that kind of thing, and answer questions for people. So it wouldn't be every day, certainly, but I'd like to get a team of people interested in that. So lots of different opportunities. And how? You can go sign up on our website, but I have to confess I am notorious for not replying.
That's not good.
No, that's no good. That's really, really terrible. You can send me an email and put "take a break." Take a break will get my attention. I will reply to anyone from Take a Break. Put that in the subject line.
It sounds like you need a personal assistant.
I do. If anyone would like to volunteer to do admin work and be my personal assistant, that would be wonderful. All right, well, volunteer.
The next question is, so do you help someone who's aging, who's come home from an injury where they have no idea where to start and with contacts? So I'm assuming that would be, do you have the information to tell them, call this person to get in-home care, or this person for that? Are you a good point of contact for someone?
Probably not me personally. Where I would direct you is to the standalone workshop on aging in place with services and supports. And we do hold it now that we have our new training room. I'm so excited. Now that we have that, we'll probably be holding that one. It's very popular. We'll probably be holding it every couple of months. So that would be a great place to start. And if you really want, I will give you the workbook, and that'll at least give you the information in the meantime without taking the course. I'm not supposed to do that, but take a break.
Do you find people are going to Golden Girl Living? And is that something you help facilitate to help people get matched up, or what are your comments on that?
So Golden Girls model, if any of you are not familiar with, truly based on the Golden Girls, where 4 women just got together and lived together. So fabulous model, and probably the most popular model out there of what people are wanting. I want to live with other people, but I want my own private space and that kind of thing. So we want to be socially connected. Am I standing okay? Okay. This?
Oh,
yes.
It looks like you're running out of batteries.
There you go.
Let's charge you up.
All right, no problem. I can also talk really loud.
So can I.
There you go. So Golden Girls model, very, very popular. So some challenges with it, though, is how, who owns the house. So if one person owns the house and then 4 other people are living with you, the owner dies, what do you do? And so that's a really good question. Can you hear me again now? So that's a really good question, because now do you all still stay where you are? Does the house get left to someone else? If you all decide to co-own it, it's one thing when you've got spouses, but if you're all co-owning the house, when one person dies, does that mean that the rest of you, it gets divvied up like it would with your spouse, like it just goes to ownership to you, or does that go to their son, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of complications in owning it together. What I think would be brilliant is if someone wanted to buy some of these houses and rent them. That would work really well. But there's also the issues of dealing with, do you all get along as well as the Golden Girls did? So there's those issues. But it is the absolute number one most desired thing that we hear people saying, I'd like to live that way. So absolutely.
Okay. This one's kind of, we touched on it, but what's the smart age to start planning?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, these are all great questions, by the way. To start planning your aging.
Yeah.
50? Okay, 50. That's not a bad answer. I would say whenever you start thinking, I wonder whatever. Once you're retired, for sure. Certainly I would be starting to think about these things at that point. But there is a point where maybe you're too young for whatever. Certainly getting the legal things in order and all of that. A shocking number, something like 50% of people do not have their legal affairs in order. They don't have wills or powers of attorney or what have you. So that's a good place to start. But certainly, some people would say at 50, not a lot of this is applicable to me, and I would understand. The people who take our course the most are in their 70s. About half of the people who take it are in their 70s. But sometimes in your 70s, for some people, that's too late. And some people take it in their 90s, and it's just perfect timing. But anytime you're starting to think, I wonder if I should think about this, it's time to think about this. Okay. So I think that would be my best answer.
One of the other questions that the last one on that card was, do you work solely in Ontario? What if you have parents who are living, say, in Quebec, and can they come over? Or what if you have parents who may be in the States that you want to bring to live in Canada? Is that something that you can help guide somebody in what options are when they're kind of lost and not knowing what to do?
So if you have people moving here, certainly our housing guide and the workshops and that kind of thing will be very, very helpful. If you have people who live elsewhere, your mother lives in Edmonton, and can any of this help her? Absolutely. It's just within our housing guide, as an example, you will actually have the addresses of various places that do this. So obviously those aren't applicable. And in any of our workshops, we provide all the resources that you will need in the city of Ottawa. So we haven't yet expanded. We've done some rural workbooks so that we have all the rural services available, because that is different than the urban services. But we have not branched out yet. That is something we'd love to do, and we have also applied for a trademark on our materials, and we've been told to wait on the trademark until we start expanding so that nobody's going to steal all our stuff. But it is something we'd love to do. Take it across Canada would be a very cool thing to do.
This question's about touch. It's about physical touch with elderly, knowing what the boundaries are, type of touching, hugging, hand-holding. If you're walking an elderly person, they're looking for guidance. Is that something that they could come to you for?
This would just be off the top of my head, my own personal thoughts. I have nothing professional and authoritative to say. I think anything that's helpful, and maybe as you would do with a youth, is it okay if I hold your arm and help you with that? That's how you're supposed to deal with youth, and plan to protect and that kind of thing. Because certainly the elderly are considered a vulnerable population, so you don't want to be intruding on their boundaries or going into their home without them inviting you or what have you. But that's a really good question. I don't have a formal. This is what we say. That's my best answer at the moment. I hope that helps.
Okay. Do you have a workshop for internet, phone, in-person fraud?
So we do talk about fraud in our Common Financial Concerns workshop, but we also have the police coming on May 16 to do a workshop on fraud at our location. Our offices, by the way, are over on Saint Laurent Boulevard. We're in the old Rideau High School. If you're familiar with that. So we're up on the second floor, which is too bad they didn't have any main floor rooms left when we moved in. So both our offices and our new training room are up on the second floor. But on the main floor, in the cafeteria, is where we will be holding the fraud session, and we're doing it in both English and in French. So
just take, for example, this fraud session. Would that be in that calendar, or is this something that is not planned in advance? So there are different, okay.
None of our education is in the calendar, and please do come and take a calendar. Delighted to have you take them away. I don't want to have to carry them home. But no, we don't put any of our education in there because in fact, the fraud one just changed from the 15th to the 16th. But that is all online, so you can go online to our events page and see what's coming up.
Okay.
And that's a really great thing.
So someone that doesn't have access to a computer, can't use a computer, how would they get the benefit? Just calling in?
Yeah, they can phone. We do have, if you press extension 1, someone will tell you, what's coming up, and they can read to you what's online and committed to.
So this particular question is just asking about the date for the 55 Alive refresher, but I'm sure that that would be on your website, is it? Or?
It will be on our website as soon as it's up. And certainly, I did put out the sheets here. I should have put them out. I think 2 people signed up. If you would like to receive our Info Flash newsletter, there is a sign-up sheet here. I think there's 2 or 3 of them sitting there. They're all the same thing. I will take those back and have someone enter all that information, and you'll start receiving it. So if you'd like to get updates on that, so you'll know right away when anything's being offered.
Okay.
So
is that just for the 55, or is that for any
that's for
education?
Everything. That's for our 2 newsletters, the one that comes out weekly with events, and it does have our events. It also has community events. So there's like an Ottawa PC users group that regularly puts their events in our thing. So there's our events at the top of our newsletter, and then community events at the bottom. And you can also go online and see all those same things.
Okay.
So
we'll make sure that you have time afterwards to get your name on the sheet, and I see Marcella's passing it around as we go. So do sign up. It's a great way to find out what's going on out there.
And you can always unsubscribe. If you're like, yeah, no, this wasn't as interesting as I thought, that's fine. You can unsubscribe. No problem.
This question, is the men's shed Christian-based?
No, it is not. It is just very community-based. There are none that are specific. There could be a Christian one. There's no stopping doing that, for sure. If you wanted to start a Christian one, go for it.
Okay. And medication. Do you know, they're looking for what's covered in medication. Is that something that...
In terms of like...
Of the province, it looks like.
Is there a specific question?
No, they just say, what is covered in medication for seniors? I'm assuming it's by province, whoever asked that question?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
a lot of things, so there are things that are just generally covered, and once you turn 65, a lot more is covered. And then, if you have Blue Cross or whatever, that kind of thing. And if you can't afford some of your medications, there are also programs through the city where you can sign up. They'll pay for your incontinence products, for example, and medications, the difference, that you would need to pay. So if you are on a lower income and need that extra assistance, there are those supports available, as well as, of course, the Ontario Dental Program if you're on a lower income.
Yeah, that's just come out. My mother-in-law was just approved for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a 3-month waiting period for that dental program, so get it in and get yourself covered. This question is, NORCs, are they across Ontario? Are they across Canada? Are they in Europe?
Yes.
Tell us.
So a NORC is just a statistical fact. So we got all of our information to do the mapping for it from StatsCan, from the census. So we know how many people of what age and what culture and what, all these different things are living in these buildings. So that's where we got our mapping from. And we had the Ottawa Neighborhood Study do the mapping for us. We paid them to do it. I didn't sit there doing it. But and they are, it's a statistical fact. So they're all across Canada, the US, but it's becoming more of a thing. So I've seen maybe 5 or 6 news articles in the last 6 months come out about that. There's one funded NORC on Ambleside. If any of you know where Ambleside is, it's out in the West End. And so they have 3 buildings. So they got funding to actually get a staff person in as a pilot project to see how that would go to have a staff person in those buildings. So they're coming near the end of that. I think it was a 2-year or 3-year project. They're coming near the end of it. But so that's been very helpful, and of course it's always good to have staff around to coordinate things, but is it worth it for the province to be putting people into these buildings?
Personal assistance.
Yeah.
And NORC, what's it stand for?
Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. So you probably all have heard of retirement homes, where Chartwells will come in and they've got retirement homes and you can move in there. Those are purpose-built retirement communities. You go, you pay, they make your meals, all that kind of thing. But a naturally occurring retirement community is one where there just so happens to be a bunch of people of this age living here, and why don't we do something with that fact? By the way, I only talked about the vertical NORCs. There are also horizontal NORCs. I'm sure you've all seen those communities where there's a whole bunch of bungalows and maybe a community room in the middle, and we all know those are for 55 plus communities. But there are also sometimes, like I would say my parents used to live in a NORC, just a city block where everybody, the kids have grown up and moved out and all the people are still living in their homes. That's a NORC too. It's just maybe a less formal one, but there are some stats on that as well. We just didn't map those ones out, but certainly those do exist.
This is an interesting question that I didn't know. Advocate Uber recharging wait times for seniors. Uber, yeah. So who asked that question? Is there a wait time on the Uber, or?
Oh. Well, you'd think someone would just be kind and deal with that.
Yeah, you would think.
Okay, it's something I wasn't aware of. I'll take note. You can hand me that card, and I'll see what I can do with it.
Well, and there are a couple more here on here. Only 4 sessions for physiotherapy for seniors per year.
Through the home and community care support services? Yeah. How does that work? So basically, let's say you fall and break your hip, and now you need some physiotherapy as you're recovering in the community. Essentially, they will give you, and I also don't know the exact number, but it is something like 4 or 5 or 6 free physiotherapy sessions to help you in your recovery. I haven't been thrilled with the options. They don't get to know you very long, that kind of thing. However, it's better than nothing. Take it and, get the best you can out of it. However, it is something like that. And basically, there are such long wait lists for these things. They just have to dole it out and be reasonable in what they can offer. So I know for both of my parents, we have hired physiotherapy people. You've got people like Meg, where's Meg's mom? There you go. You've got people like Meg who can, work with you on gentle movements and exercises and that kind of thing. And you could join, a class, and she also has some online stuff that you can follow. Shout out for Meg. If any of you don't know about Activities in Motion, the fabulous group. So, things like that. Now, is she a physiotherapist? No, I didn't think so. She's an exercise person. But still, all of those things would be very helpful. So there's ways that you can get help in other ways. But it is just a few, and they just have to dole it out. There's such wait lists for everything, all kinds of care when you go home.
Okay. And the last question's about pools, city pools, that they need to collaborate.
Yes, resources. And I think you were talking to me about that as well.
So maybe we can share a bit about that, how it actually works, so everyone can benefit on it, or?
Right. So I think what she was explaining to me, which I didn't know, so I learned something new today. Since I gave the example about pools, she was telling me that all pools have now moved to a drop-in system here in the city. I was not aware of that. And so something to look into, sister. My sister came today. She's here in town for a week. My sister lives in Europe, but we're here trying to navigate some stuff for my parents. And my mother's in long-term care. My dad is moving in with us, so we're selling his condo and going through. So I am personally dealing with all this stuff. But anyway, one of the things my dad would like is Aquafit, so we've started looking into that this week. And so thank you for that piece of information. So apparently they've all turned into drop-in centers. I didn't know that, and but apparently there's way too many people going now, and it's way too crowded. So I think she told me more than I'm going to tell.
So there's actually a huge need for it.
There is a huge need for it. Yeah, people really, really want it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Last chance. Does anybody have something that they wanted to ask?
When do you start the next 4 8 weeks?
That's a very good question, and it is up on my website. I'm going to say late April. I'm pretty sure like last week of April, something in there, because I know we wanted it done by the end of June.
Okay.
And then click on events, and then you should see something for the core program. And again, if you don't find it, send me an email and put "take a break" in the subject line so I pay attention to you. I get so many emails, and I truly do need an admin assistant.
I'm just going to ask one last question before we close in prayer, and we thank Sarah again. How many people are interested in doing the core program? Can we have a show of hands? Because perhaps it's something we can bring here to the church. So
Yes.
let us see. That's great. Okay.
I would do it for a group of 10 or more.
10 or more?
Absolutely. If you want to
Okay.
do it,
Okay. We'll
Yep.
chat.
yes,
We'll chat
we
about
will
it.
chat.
Thank you very much
You're
for
very
joining
welcome.
us today.
Thank you.
You're a wealth of knowledge, and
I try.
we certainly need it, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. This is great.
If we just ask for everyone to just bow their head for a moment, we'll close in prayer, and feel free to finish off what's left here and mingle a little bit with each other, and come and ask Sarah any questions that maybe you were too shy to ask her on a card, or it's just come up in your head. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the collection of beautiful Christian women with us here today who have come to explore aging. May we all have taken a little tidbit away with us, and we obviously embraced everything Sarah has given us today, because knowledge is power, and getting old is sometimes never easy. Although we can count on you, Lord, to be there with us, sometimes we need a little extra help in this world. And we truly are blessed to collectively have come together today. May we go and explore all the information that's been provided to us today to help with our aging or the aging of a loved one. Amen.